Promising Young Woman is a film that started to hit the film festivals at the start of 2020, getting a theatrical release at the end of 2020, and now it's starting to hit international territories as we are well into 2021. The film stars Carey Mulligan, which in my opinion she gives her best performance that she's ever done, and also the director Emerald Fennell, the writer of the Killing Eve hit show as well. She's also an actress and she does a pretty good job with this movie. But Carey Mulligan, as I said, she stars in it and she is the star of this show. She really is. Her performances are brilliant. But what's the film about? The film follows a woman who went through a traumatic experience 10 years prior to the events of this film, and she's still haunted by that to this day. She went through this experience and also her friend. Now, you don't get to see her friend throughout the movie, and you are a bit mysterious in what happened to her friend and what actually went on in that traumatic experience 10 years prior. But you can probably start to connect the dots as the film goes on, and eventually the film does tell you exactly what happened, and it is horrifying. It's not good whatsoever. But in today's world, she goes to nightclubs, she dresses up, she pretends to be drunk, so guys pick her up and bring her home, thinking that she's vulnerable and trying to have sex with her, which she's not drunk and she knows exactly what's going on. And I don't want to spoil it from there. That's when it starts to change tone, and that's when Carey Mulligan's performance starts to change from a woman who seems to be drunk, vulnerable, to this kind of psycho per se, that is willing to show men exactly what they are doing. And you can probably get a fair idea of what the traumatic experience was 10 years prior from what I just said there, but there's much more to it, and I don't want to spoil it. I want you to check it out, because this film, even though it hits a very interesting story and something that happens in today's world, it makes it kind of fun to watch at times, especially because of the performance of Carey Mulligan, and especially because of the dialogue and the jokes and the way this film kind of flows. The editing for me is a big plus for this movie and really stands to it, especially in the third act. Now, Carey Mulligan, I think this is going to be a movie that people look back on and say, yeah, that was her best ever performance. That's the movie right there where she proved she was an A-list actor who could act in absolutely anything. And I do have parallels toward Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight. He won an Oscar for that, of course, and people look at that role saying that he right there proved he was an actor. And this is the movie for me that proves Carey Mulligan is a top-notch actor, and I'm looking forward to watching her in many projects to come. She's been in loads of movies. She's been around for years, but for me, this is the movie I stood up and took notice at Carey Mulligan. And I do think, and I'm going to put all bets into it, that she wins Best Actress this year, an Oscar, for this performance, because I think it's too good for the Academy to say, I don't really like it. I think it's just too good. I think everyone's going to love this performance. Now, this is a movie I didn't watch the trailer for. All I had seen for this movie was one picture, and that picture was Carey Mulligan in a nurse outfit. And people said, it's a badass movie, it's crazy, and just watch it. So I sat down to watch it, and I absolutely loved it. As I said, the editing is pretty good, the performances are all good, but Carey Mulligan is just above everybody else in this movie. She is great. The music choices are weird, but I like it. They even have Paris Hilton songs in this movie, and I went to YouTube after and looked up this Paris Hilton song, and you know what? It's pretty good. But the way that they show it in the movie, in a certain scene, it pays off. And especially the last scene in the movie as well. Some music plays over that, and it's just perfect. And as I said, she's on a revenge plan to get back at all the people who were involved in this traumatic experience 10 years prior. And she has a checklist. She has a notebook where she checks off certain people that she's trying to get back at. And it's interesting. And even her going to nightclubs to catch out guys who are trying to get with a vulnerable woman. These men have absolutely nothing to do with the traumatic experience that happened 10 years prior, but they do have something to do with it because they're doing the same act that happened 10 years ago. So she's trying to punish people who are still doing that to this day, while also on a revenge plan to get the people. And it's interesting. And an all-star cast supports this movie. We have Alfred Molina, one of the best comic book villains of all time, Doc Ock. He's in this in a very small role, but a very substantial role that's very grounded, very sad, but it plays well to the overall story. Alison Brie pops up in 2 or 3 scenes. She gives a really good performance, and you get to see different kind of personas of her character as well, which is pretty cool and good for her acting muscles as well. But Carey Mulligan's performance, guys, I was blown away. I loved it. We got to see a happy Carey Mulligan. We got to see a sad, a psycho. You know, we got to see so many dimensions of her character in this movie when it's just one person. And I really, really liked it. We get to see her working in a coffee shop. She acts a little bit different. She lives at home with her parents still. She's a little bit different. How she acts on nights out when she's pretending to be drunk is a little bit different. And then when she finds somebody she thinks she can fall in love with, she's also a little bit different. So I love that. And that probably parallels to everybody that you meet, and you as well, because we're all different in certain circumstances around different people because of things that have happened in our life and how we feel in a social environment. So I really like that. But yeah, I do think she's going to win Best Actress for an Oscar. I do think that. I'm going to place all my bets right here, right now, and say she does. Unless there's some movie that's going to come out in the next month or two that blows her performance out of the water, I just don't see it. And I think it would be a shame if she didn't get an Oscar. I don't really care about Oscars that much, but I just think her performance here is just way too good. And I'm interested for people to check it out and to get their thoughts, because this movie is not the best movie of all time, but it's a fun movie that hits a very interesting story that takes place in today's world and has taken place for centuries throughout all of humanity. This is something that has happened. Now, do I think it's a feminist movie that hits out at men and stuff like that? I don't. I never felt that once, and if I did, I would tell you guys, because I felt that in Endgame when all the women got together and they stood out. You know, it wasn't kind of natural. It didn't really seed into this story. It kind of took me out of the story. But this movie, I never got elements of that where it was saying F you men or anything like that, because I think it paints men and women in the same light and humanity in the same light, that people can be bad, and it's not just a man who can be bad, it's not just a woman who can be bad, it's both. Everybody can be bad, and when they acknowledge how bad they have become, can they say I was wrong there? Can they say, yeah, I should not have done that and I am sorry? But it takes a lot for people to do that, and this movie hits that perfectly. Now, the last act of this movie is where it kind of gets, the pace starts to pick up, and you're like, oh yeah, here we go. People are going to get revenged on. Is that a word? She's going to get her revenge on people. But there is some scenes in the third act that are very, very hard to watch, and I was there left with my mouth open, like, what? And you're sitting there thinking, well, there's another, I looked at the time, there's another 15 minutes left. And I'm like, what happens from here? Where does the story go from here? And you kind of have a bit of sadness and a bit of, you kind of take, what I actually liked was, you kind of take the anger that Carey Mulligan's character had throughout the movie in the final act. You kind of have that on yourself. You feel like you're the character. You feel like you want to jump into the screen and just make things happen and get revenge on people, which I really, really liked. But the payoff, the ending of the movie probably won't sit well with everybody. It probably won't. And even for me, I was like, did I like that ending? Because it was different. I was not expecting it whatsoever. But the ending is ballsy. It's a risk-taking ending, and I'm interested to see people's thoughts about it. And then when the film just ends, it cuts to black, and you're like, oh my god, did that just happen? And it did. And it's, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, but I thought it was pretty well done, and I really liked that kind of F you at the end. So guys, that was my review for Promising Young Woman, starring Carey Mulligan. If you have not seen it, check it out. This is no spoilers, of course, and check it out. I want to hear your thoughts. Try and go find it somewhere and watch it and give it a good review and let me know your thoughts, because I think it's a movie that needs to be watched. Really enjoyed it. Emerald Fennell did a pretty good job. Carey Mulligan, as I said, one of her best performances, very paralleled to Heath Ledger's Joker, and I do believe that. And especially there's a scene where she's in a nurse outfit. Heath Ledger was in a nurse outfit, and them two scenes for me are probably Carey Mulligan's best acting scene of all time and Heath Ledger's best acting scene of all time. And those two scenes are just badass, and the dialogue is brilliant. But guys, like, comment, subscribe, get in the comments, let me know your thoughts. Follow me on all the social media, that stuff is in the description, and I appreciate you guys checking this out. Have a good day. Do something that makes you happy. Watch a movie. Be happy. That's all we have in this world.